There's a choice people make that the world refuses to respect. They call it selfish, immature, a phase you'll grow out of. But you know the truth. Choosing a dog over a child wasn't running away from responsibility. It was running toward a kind of love the world doesn't value. The kind that doesn't demand you break yourself open. The kind that doesn't ask you to become someone you're not sure you want to be. You've heard the questions. Don't you want a real family? As if the creature who greets your pain without judgment, who asks for nothing but presence, who loves you in your smallest, most unchanged form, as if that love is lesser. This is not about pets replacing children. This is about people who've quietly chosen a different mathematics of meaning. And the psychology behind why that choice feels like both liberation and exile. There is a relief you're not supposed to feel. It lives in the moment you close the door, and it's just you and the dog, or the cat, or the quiet hum of a life that asks nothing of you except to show up as you are. No performance, no becoming, just presence. The world calls this emptiness. You know it as oxygen. Because here's what no one says out loud. The love you have for this animal is uncomplicated in a way human love has never been. It doesn't come with conditions shaped like life milestones. It doesn't require you to lose sleep for 18 years, to sacrifice dreams with due dates, to split yourself into fractions and hope there's enough left over to still recognize your face in the mirror. Your dog doesn't need you to be more patient. Your cat doesn't need you to be less selfish. They need you to fill the bowl, open the door, and sit beside them in the evening light. And in return, they offer something humans almost never do. They love you without needing you to change. You've tried to explain this. You've tried to say that it's not about hating children or fearing responsibility. It's about knowing yourself well enough to admit that the kind of love you have to give steady, present, but boundaried might not be the kind a child deserves. That choosing not to have children isn't a rejection of life, it's a protection of it. But they don't hear that. They hear, you're scared, you're selfish, you'll regret this. And maybe there's a part of you that wonders if they're right. If this quiet, animal-shaped love is just a placeholder for something you're too afraid to want. If the relief you feel is actually just avoidance, wearing a disguise. But then your dog rests their head on your knee, and the guilt dissolves. Not because the question goes away, but because the answer is already here, wordless and warm, asking nothing but to be exactly this. This choice didn't begin with a pet. It began long before that. It began in a childhood where you watched love become labor, where you saw your mother fold herself smaller and smaller until she was just a function, cooking, cleaning, soothing, scheduling, where your father became a ghost who worked to exhaustion and called it provision. They gave everything, and in the giving, they vanished. You learned early that parenthood is a kind of beautiful extinction. They never said it out loud, but you felt it in the tired silences, in the dreams deferred, in the way they looked at old photographs of themselves young, light, unassigned, and something flickered across their faces. Not regret, exactly, but a whisper of who I was before this. You also learned that love, in your family, came with strings made of duty. Affection had to be earned. Approval had to be maintained. You couldn't just exist, you had to be good, grateful, worth the sacrifice. And even when you were, it never quite felt like enough. So you grew up understanding that care costs. That to be needed is to be consumed. That the people who love you will also, inevitably, lose themselves in the process. And then the world handed you a script. It said, this is what makes life meaningful. Marriage, children, legacy. Sacrifice yourself beautifully and call it fulfillment. But when you held that script up to the light, it looked less like a promise and more like a sentencing. You started asking questions no one wanted to hear. What if I don't want to disappear? What if I want a love that doesn't demand my dissolution? What if the life I build is small and quiet and just for me? Is that still allowed? The world said no, but something inside you, some stubborn preservation instinct, said yes. And when you brought home that first animal fur and heartbeat and uncomplicated need, you realized, this is what love feels like when it doesn't ask you to erase yourself. This is what it feels like to care without vanishing. There is science behind why this love feels safer. Attachment theory tells us that some people develop what's called an avoidant attachment style. Not because they don't want connection, but because early connection taught them that closeness comes with unpredictability, with expectations that shift, with emotional needs they couldn't meet no matter how hard they tried. These people grow up excellent at caring, terrible at being consumed. And children, by design, consume. They require a kind of self-sacrifice that isn't occasional, it's architectural. It rebuilds your entire existence around their needs. For some people, this feels like purpose. For others, it feels like drowning. Animals offer something different. They operate on what psychologists call secure base attachment. They need you, yes, but their needs are consistent, rhythmic, and manageable. They don't require you to become a different person. They don't ask you to perform emotional labor you don't have the capacity to give. And here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. Research shows that the bond between humans and animals triggers the same neurochemical response as parent-child bonding. Oxytocin floods the system. The same hormone, the same neural pathways. When your dog looks into your eyes, your brain lights up in the patterns of caregiving and love, which means what you feel isn't less real. It's just differently structured. Studies on the child-free, those who choose not to have children, reveal something the culture refuses to accept. They are not less happy. In many cases, they report higher life satisfaction, stronger partnerships, greater personal freedom, and equal levels of meaning and purpose. But meaning, in this world, is supposed to look a certain way. It's supposed to involve sacrifice that breaks you open, supposed to require you to lose yourself in service of the next generation. What happens when your meaning is built differently? When it's found in presence instead of productivity? In consistency instead of legacy? In a love that doesn't ask you to bleed out slowly over decades? The world calls it selfish. Psychology calls it self-aware. The hardest battle isn't with the world. It's with the voice inside that sounds like the world, but lives in your own head. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am broken. You hear it at family gatherings when the questions come. So, no kids yet? And you smile, deflect, change the subject, but later, alone, the doubt creeps in. What if this clarity you feel is actually just fear, dressed up as a decision? What if you're not choosing a different path, you're just running from the real one? The culture has planted landmines in your psyche. It whispers that women without children are incomplete, that men without children are immature, that a life built around anything other than reproduction is a life half-lived, a rough draft, a waiting room for the real thing that never comes. And even when you know better, even when every logical part of you understands that fulfillment has no mandatory blueprint, the emotional part still flinches. Because defending this choice is exhausting. You've tried explaining. You've tried saying, I know myself. I know my limits. I know what kind of love I can sustain. But they hear excuses. They hear someone who hasn't grown up yet. Someone who hasn't learned what real love costs. So you stop explaining. And the silence becomes its own kind of loneliness. You watch your friends disappear into parenthood. Watch their lives reorganize around school pickups and sleepless nights, and a kind of beautiful martyrdom you can't access. You're happy for them, truly, but you also feel the distance growing. The unspoken judgment. The way they look at your life, your freedom, your rest, your intact sense of self, and call it easy. As if choosing to be yourself in a world that demands you transform is easy. As if resisting the most powerful biological and social script humans have is easy. As if living with the quiet accusation that you're selfish, scared, or broken day after day after day is easy. The war inside is this: holding your truth while the world treats it like a phase. Believing in your own alignment while others insist you're misaligned. Loving your animal and knowing, with every fiber, that this love is real, while being told, over and over, that it's not enough. And then, one day, you stop defending. Not because you've been defeated, but because you've finally heard yourself. It happens quietly. Maybe you're sitting with your cat curled in your lap, or watching your dog sleep in a patch of sunlight, and something shifts. The question that's haunted you, am I enough, suddenly sounds different. Not like an accusation, like an answer. Yes, I am enough. Exactly like this. The turning point isn't dramatic. It's not a revelation that arrives with trumpets and clarity. It's more like exhaustion, giving way to truth. You realize you've spent years trying to justify a peace that needs no justification. You've been translating your life into a language others will accept, when your life is already fluent in its own dialect. You begin to see that the people who judge you harshest are often those who never questioned the script they were handed, who followed the path because it was the path. And maybe their life is beautiful, but it was never a choice. It was an inevitability. Your life is a choice. Daily, deliberately, and your animal has been teaching you all along, teaching you that love doesn't have to be complicated to be profound, that care doesn't have to be endless to be meaningful, that you can show up fully without erasing yourself in the process. They've taught you presence, the way they wait by the door, not asking where you've been, just glad you're back. The way they sense your pain without needing explanations. The way they exist beside you, asking for nothing but now. This is parenting. Not the kind the world recognizes, but parenting nonetheless. You feed, you protect, you show up consistently, you love without expecting anything in return except companionship. And in that space, you've discovered something the martyrdom model never offered. You can care deeply without disappearing. You start finding your people. The ones who don't need you to explain, who understands that a life built around authenticity is harder, not easier, than a life built around expectation, who sees your home, small, quiet, full of fur and routines, and recognizes it for what it is, not a consolation prize, but a destination. Integration doesn't mean the questions stop. It means you stop needing everyone to understand the answers. You learn to hold your choice without armor, without the defensive explanations, without the need to prove that your life is just as valid, just as full, just as worthy. You simply live it, and the living becomes the proof. You begin to understand something crucial. Both paths require courage. The people who choose children aren't wrong. They're walking a different kind of bravery, the willingness to be needed beyond measure, to sacrifice in ways that reshape identity, to love something so much it terrifies them daily. That is holy work. But so is yours. Your courage is the courage of boundaries, of self-knowledge, of saying no to a life that would feel like a betrayal of who you are, even if it looks like success to everyone else. Your courage is staying small in a world that measures worth by expansion. It's choosing a love that the culture doesn't validate. It's building meaning from presence instead of legacy. Neither path is superior, neither is easier. Both are simply different expressions of what it means to be human. You stop comparing, you stop defending, you stop waiting for permission. And in that space, you find your people. Not many, maybe, but enough. The ones who chose similarly. The ones who see a dog as family, not substitution. The ones who understand that fulfillment has 1,000 valid architectures, and yours is built around authenticity, not tradition. You have conversations that feel like oxygen, where no one asks when you're having kids, where your animal's name is remembered, where your life is discussed with the same seriousness, the same respect, the same curiosity as anyone else's. You also make peace with the ones who don't understand. Your parents, maybe, who still hold out hope you'll change your mind. Friends who drifted when your lives no longer mirrored each other. Strangers who look at your choices with pity or judgment. You release the need for their approval. Not bitterly, just softly. The way you'd release a balloon. Watching it go, knowing it was never yours to hold on to anyway. And your animal, oblivious to all of this human complexity, simply continues loving you, steadily, uncomplicated, asking nothing but that you stay. In the end, all love is a choice of what you're willing to carry. Some people carry the weight of lineage, the biological imperative, the generational hope that something of them continues after they're gone. They carry sleepless nights and soccer practices and college tuition, and the terror of loving someone so much that the world becomes a dangerous place. They carry it willingly, beautifully, and they are transformed by the carrying. You carry something different. You carry the weight of authenticity in a world that calls it selfishness. You carry the knowledge that your life, though quieter, though smaller in the eyes of those who measure by multiplication, is no less intentional. You carry the daily practice of presence, of showing up for a creature who will never achieve, never produce, never carry your name forward, but who reflects back to you a version of love that asks nothing but consistency. Neither weight is heavier, neither is more noble. They are simply different mathematics of meaning. And here, in the evening light, as your dog ages beside you or your cat curls into the familiar curve of your body, you understand this was never about replacement. It was never about choosing an animal over a child, as if one cancels out the other. It was about choosing yourself, choosing a version of love you could sustain, choosing a life that felt true even when it looked wrong to everyone else. There will be no one to remember you the way children remember parents. No genetic echo, no story passed down through bloodlines. When you are gone, the evidence of your existence will fade faster. This is the cost. You know it. You've made peace with it. Because of the alternative cost, the slow erasure of self, the performance of a role that never fit, the resentment that grows in the gap between who you are and who you're supposed to be, that cost was higher. So you live small. You live true. You love this animal with the kind of steadiness that doesn't make headlines but makes a life. And on the days when the doubt returns, when the world's voice creeps back in, you look into their eyes, and they look back. Uncomplicated, absolute, asking nothing but this: stay. And you do.